You're elected school trustee for this area in Toronto-Danforth. I am still your elected school trustee. Just while we have people moving in and out, I won't get started with remarks or land acknowledgement. I'm just going to start with some practical reminders. And so it is warm in this room now. We are many people. And so if you need to get out, there's an exit at the back, turn right behind you, and there's an exit to your left. You can get out of either of these to get to the washrooms. They're labeled. When you look up, you'll see the gender signs. And we have an overflow. This is a popular event. This is an important issue. And so this is good. It means that it matters and that we care. Is there? Yeah, I can see that there are several cameras here, but is there anything that we know that will be taped for later for this? Oh, I think they're going to start to. Yeah, I can see that there's one camera here that's for video for future release. Yeah. And I'll note that everyone will have seen that there's sign-up sheets as you came in. There's petitions around our waterfront, and there's information. There's NoJetsTo shirts. There's lots of great stuff behind to check out. We're just managing that overflow right now, eh? Yeah, okay, trying to. But that's, where is it? That apparently in the stairwell is what I'm hearing. No, I'm not there to see it, yeah. So I will then just start by saying a little bit about what brings me here tonight as your moderator. Because sadly, at this moment, I'm no stranger to Doug Ford power grabs. I was elected as the public school trustee for Toronto-Danforth in 2022. I signed up and joined because I am a parent. I care. There was a spot, and it was just coming out of the pandemic, and I knew it would be a difficult time for our children. And so I and many others stepped forward in that election, and our boards were taken over after the last provincial election. There have been the province, through Doug Ford and his education minister, seized control of our school board, and there have been 8 school board takeovers in as many months. It now represents 40% of Ontario's children are now under direct reporting to the Minister of Education rather than their locally elected people to oversee the boards. And there are billions of dollars of public assets, which are our children's schools, that are now under this government's direct control as well. And so it's a very concerning situation, one of many concerning situations, but it means that I am no stranger to this idea of a Doug Ford power grab. And over the past number of months, I've continued to serve, I've continued to work with parents and with our community to raise awareness of what it means to have local governments, to have local decision making and a say, and what it means when we have a bully, because we work hard not to accept bullies on our school grounds. I don't believe we should accept bullying behavior in any of the difficult discussions we have in our communities. So I will, just as I'm awaiting to hear what's taking place and if we're good to go, I hope it's okay if I start to talk a little bit about the kind of room we want to create. We're going to have limited time here tonight because the building eventually has to close. And so we have until around 8:30. Speakers are each going to speak for about 10 minutes. There'll be little gaps in between, and we hope to have some time for questions. We'll be moving this mic out to the middle. I assume that there will be limited time for questions, and so I'm going to ask everyone about a minute each. My expectation is that we may have diverse viewpoints in this room, and isn't it an amazing thing that we can get together and talk about issues that affect us from diverse viewpoints? Isn't that what democracy should be? If you'll permit me, I'm going to suggest that we try to have school rules when we ask questions. And so what that means is to be respectful of the fact that other people can have a different opinion than you and a different truth. Hateful speech will not be tolerated, And because we are talking about bullying behavior, we're going to try not to bully each other tonight. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, just the great thing about community is that we can do this. And it's just, I'll say I'm so grateful that we're here at Ralph Thornton Centre. Ralph Thornton Centre has been a place where we've had important community dialogues and debates for decades. They recently celebrated, does someone here know, I believe it was their 45th anniversary on Valentine's Day. Is that the correct number? I believe it's been 45 years of Ralph Thornton Centre being in our community as a community space and hosting important dialogues. I know that we have had dialogues here about the Ontario line and burying the line, and what happened when Doug Ford took over the surface level of our community to build this transit project. Have we had NoJets discussions here before? I feel like we must have. I feel like this is not the first time we've been probably 30.
No big box stores.
No big box stores.
No incinerators.
Yeah. Certainly, I'm holding discussions here with school councils, as I'm not allowed to do them on school property anymore. And so we're doing our organizing meetings in this very space. And so it's an important place that we're gathered in today as well. Just checking in, Councillor Fletcher. Are we good to proceed, do you believe, given the situation outside? Okay. So with all of that, everybody, take a little stretch, little fan, and we're going to start with the land acknowledgement. Everyone can remain seated though. We acknowledge the land we are hosted on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Okay, and so with that, I'm just going to say briefly the reason for our meeting, but I think everybody knows that we learned that Doug Ford intends to expropriate city land to impose jets and convention centers on our waterfront without any consultation. So we're here to discuss these troubling developments and what we can do to push back. Thank you. Yes, that's what we're all here for, and it's a big room community to do so. We have three amazing speakers tonight. I know they need no introduction, but I will introduce each one when they're coming up to speak. If you prefer that you have the microphone sitting with you, I'll bring it over, but it would be great if you could stand up and speak. So first is our MPP here for Toronto-Danforth, that's Peter Tabuns. Peter's been tireless in shining a light on what this government is doing. He's one of the strongest advocates for the environment that we have at Queen's Park, and he's a mentor and friend, and just Peter, I'm very happy to have you up here tonight. Thank you.
Sarah, thanks very much. That was quite generous. I am so happy to see all of you here this evening. This is fabulous. And I know there are people I can't see who are out there, and frankly, I imagine there are people who came and said, oh no, lines are too long, I have to go. My colleagues, Councillor Fletcher, Norm Di Pasquale, are going to be talking about different aspects of the problems that we're facing this evening, and they'll be talking about a number of technical matters. You all know that it's no secret that Doug Ford seems to be obsessed with the waterfront. And what deep psychological issues there are, I don't know. I can't speak to those. But we're meeting this evening because of two most recent announcements, and one, this announcement of, I think his term is the humongous convention center on Ford Island out in Lake Ontario, and his proposal to expand jets at the island airport. My colleagues will speak to those matters in greater detail. I want to talk about three things. Why is this happening? What's his hammer? What's his power in this situation? And how badly planned are these projects? And my colleagues will give you technical information, but my assumption is that everyone in this room, maybe I'm wrong, but almost everyone in this room is going to be opposing what Doug Ford wants to do, and my hope is that the arguments I'm giving you, you will be able to use in pushing back against him. So, why has he come forward with these projects and in the way that he's done it? And there are two things I want to say. First off, You all know that this is a premier in deep trouble, right? Like he's the second least popular premier in Canada. And right now, he has found that he can't hide his phone records anymore. And you gotta ask, what's in those phone records that he is so desperate to keep them covered? Not just the fact that he fought the Information and Privacy Commissioner, not that he fought it in court, and now is rewriting the law to protect himself retroactively? Amazing. So this is a man desperate for a distraction. And, I mean, he could have done other more destructive things, I guess, but these two items, expanding Billy Bishop, moving in, taking over the city's role, and putting in his humongous convention center, are really good distractors, because we're talking about it. But I have to say, that fight, I think, is a big part of what's driving it. And the other thing I have to say to you, and you have observed this with the Greenbelt, you've observed it with the Skills Development Fund scandal. In Ontario, overwhelmingly, decisions are being made to ensure that his buddies get rich. And on the Greenbelt, he just about was able to give away $8 billion, but the public pushback was too great. Other friends, yeah, I know, it was so good. It was so good. Skills Development Fund, a few $billion go out. The Auditor General said, a lot of this money you could not justify the issuance of it to the entities that got it. So, in a province that is as rich as ours, we are having someone make decisions based not on how do I build the economy, how do I build this province, how do I make things better? No, how do I make sure that my donors and buddies get richer? So two things, a premier in trouble, looking for distractions, and a premier looking for a way to make his buddies richer. And if we're going to fight these things, we're going to have to do what Deep Throat said to Woodward and Bernstein. Follow the money. Look for the money. Who's getting rich out of this? And I know all of you as a creative group are going to do the research to find out what is driving all this. So the second question is, what's his hammer? What's his lever? What are the things that he can use to push things forward? Well, obviously, he has the power of expropriation. And he said that he's going to be using that with the Island Airport, Billy Bishop. Now, I have to say to all of you, use of the expropriation power really here is just an abuse of democratic control. It's an abuse of the ability of the citizens of Toronto to control their future. That is wrong. But the other thing that he's going to use are the powers that he gave himself when he pushed through Bill 5 last year. Now, many of you may remember Bill 5. This is a bill that gives the government power to designate special economic zones within which the government can effectively say all existing provincial laws don't exist. We don't have to worry about environmental laws, we don't have to worry about labor laws, health and safety laws. Every piece of provincial legislation or municipal legislation around zoning is wiped out. Lawless zones, effectively. The one thing he couldn't touch was the criminal code. So he didn't. Amazing. But you should know, he's given himself and civil servants special protection against legal action brought by citizens who are hurt in any way by the exercise of that power. Those are pretty profound powers. And when he brought them in, he said, we need them because we've got an economic emergency, we're fighting Donald Trump, we need to expedite mineral development. Well, I'll tell you, you don't need to expedite changing Billy Bishop Airport. You don't need special economic zone. He has said, with his humongous convention center and with the airport, that he's going to pay attention to environmental concerns and make sure they're addressed. Does anyone in this room actually think Doug Ford cares about the environment for a second? No. You're a good crowd. So, he's got those powers of expropriation in Bill 5. How badly planned is this? Let's start with Ford Island, or Ford Love Island, or you take your pick. I don't think anyone in this room can name the feasibility, marketing, and business studies that were done to justify putting this forward. I can't. March 5th, the Toronto Star, a paper of record, reported on the dollars and cents issue saying that the market demand for conventions may not be there. So he's talking about spending $2 billion on a new convention center out in the lake without any plan to show that it's viable, and with the opinion being that there may not be a market for such activities. Now, you may not be aware of this, but for 10 years, Doug Ford was Deco Label's #1 sticker salesman in the United States. And he operated out of Chicago, which I think fundamentally shaped his understanding of politics, but that's another matter. And one of the things he's saying is we need something like the McCormick Convention Center in Chicago, which is quite huge apparently. But if you look at the records, revenue's been dropping for that center. We have a different market reality. And when experts were asked by newspapers, okay, can you comment on this? They have to say, we've seen no studies. No study. Is this economically viable? Who knows? But he is pushing forward with something that could cost us billions. And all of you here know what's happening in healthcare. You know what's happening in education. You know the problems people have with affordability. Can we afford to blow several $billion bucks on a project that hasn't actually been studied? No, we can't. If he wants to do something about convention centers, sit down with the city, look at what we've got, look at the market, do an analysis, and then maybe make an investment. Now, the Island Airport. Norm's going to talk about this far more extensively and in a way that's far more informed than I can. But I have to say to you that the idea that you would put in an airport that would undermine the development of housing after we spent $2.5 billion for floodproofing in the Portland is nuts. Not a technical term, but it will do. $2.5 billion. Come on. So, and then there's the question as to whether or not it's economically viable to expand the airport at all. And Martin Redgecombe in the Toronto Star wrote a really interesting article, pretty even-handed, but I have to say, and I'm gonna steal from Martin. I had to give him attribution. Didn't want him to see his words come back out of my mouth without this. He said, the Premier premises his arguments on the idea that Pearson Airport is congested. As Ford knows, Pearson not only has room to grow today, but has launched an expansion that will boost traffic long into the future, well before Billy Bishop ever gains traction. More to the point, Billy Bishop is already well below capacity and yet to regain much of the passenger traffic it lost during the pandemic. And why is that? Because the Union Pearson Express, 28 minutes from Union Station to the airport, just changes the whole equation in terms of convenience. Just changes the whole thing. So I have to say, you look at the roads from Union Station down to Billy Bishop, and you think about adding 8 million more people trying to get to that airport? You think biplanes were a problem, Mr. Ford. Adding 8 million people trying to get down to that station, to that airport, man, it is going to be impossible. So, that's the provincial end. A premier who's dealing with a political crisis, who desperately wants a distraction, a guy who does things to make his friends rich rather than make sure that the province is looked after, a government with powers and legal armor that allow it to do what it wants on the waterfront, except for political pushback, and a government that has apparently not done any work to actually determine whether these proposals make any business sense, let alone environmental sense. This is a premier who is a bull in a china shop, and it's going to take a political battle to push him back. This meeting tonight is part of that battle. Thanks again for being here.
Okay, we're going to keep going here, keeping up this momentum because I am the timekeeper for the evening. And so I want to welcome our Councillor Paula Fletcher to the stand. Councillor Fletcher is City Councillor here in Toronto Ward 14, and I want to say Paula has been a leader in delivering like world-leading development on the waterfront in our portlands, including the work for securing affordable housing so that these developments can be for everyone. And I want to thank her for her tireless work to have made it so for our community. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sarah. I want to make sure that we have enough time to hear from all of you, because I think you probably have a few things to say tonight. Yes, you do. Who's here from the East End? Put your hand up. Whoa, good East Enders. Some people came from the West End. Who came from Etobicoke? Yay! Welcome! And I know a number of you must have been at the Portlands open house that we had about 10 days ago, and you can just see the incredible things happening on the waterfront. And Peter's talked about it's $2.5 billion. First of all, to flood-proof it, and then to put all of the infrastructure, and then after that would come the housing, and we have the beautiful new parks. But somehow, once again, we have the Premier, who used to be the Mayor's brother, if you'll remember back that long ago, who believes that you can make unilateral decisions about the waterfront. Now, who remembers the Ferris wheel, the monorail, and the mega mall? After years of an environmental assessment that set the stage for everything, for the new river, for the parcels for development, for the whole how it would look, Doug Ford came to the city, and then he said, oh, I've got a different plan. He brought somebody in from Australia. We're going to do this, that, and the rest of it. Again, without any studies, any feasibility, anything. Exactly the same as we're seeing here again on our waterfront. Peter says he's got some fascination of some kind with the waterfront, which he had as the councillor and which he has as the Premier. And I just want to say that it's very strange. It was strange then, in 2011, and 15 years later, it remains strange. He still has that box of napkins that he pulls out and puts all those plans on, because this truly is a napkin plan for what is considered to be the expansion of the island airport. The island airport, and Norm will tell you more about that, but there's a tripartite agreement. Tripartite means three parties. First of all, Waterfront Toronto, who's in charge of redeveloping our waterfront, is a tripartite organization. Federal government, provincial government, and City of Toronto. All agreed we'll do this together. The Billy Bishop Airport is another tripartite. It's the Port Authority. It used to be called the Harbor Commission. And then the Ministry of Transportation owning 2%, but federal government, and the city with 20% of the ownership of the land. And that started in 1983. That's quite a few decades ago that's been working. A number of years ago, we agreed to expand the runway for safety measures because the airport is under the Marine Act. It's in the water. Just as the ferries in the city are ferries that go to the island, anything on the waterfront is under the Marine Act. So this is a tripartite agreement that Ford says, I'm taking your part. I'm taking over the city's 20% of the land. And I'm going to create a special economic zone, which is, I don't know, that's another napkin for that one. And that is just too hard to believe, that you think you can do all of that in a press release, which is how it happened, in a press release. City Council last week, Deputy Mayor Malik, who has the airport in her ward, and the mayor have a very strong motion that was almost unanimous. Who voted against that? I'm going to let you know. Vincent Crisanti and Stephen Holiday. It's City Council requests the Government of Canada and Ontario to include Toronto residents and their democratically elected municipal government in all significant decisions impacting Toronto, including decisions about the uses and futures of Toronto and future of Toronto's waterfront. Yes. Council opposes any unilateral expropriation of city land by the Government of Canada or the Government of Ontario. So when Ford says, oh yeah, I can do that, I've got all the studies, Peter's very clear. You would have to have a traffic study that says you can add 8 million people. If you've ever been to Billy Bishop Airport, tried to drop anybody off or pick anybody up, how could you go from 2 million visitors to 8 million visitors on that Bathurst and then at the corner of Lakeshore and Bathurst? It's actually impossible. Just, do you agree? Impossible to do that. So saying I don't need a study, of course you need a study. The other thing is, when you build something in the water, you can't just build it. You need approvals. And where are those approvals? The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, but of course he controls that. However, Fisheries and Oceans is a federal agency. You can't even look at a fish off-season when those folks are around. So that's another hurdle that's definitely there, that when we continue our battle here, because I think you're all ready to do that, there's many different points to push on. And that is a very important one to push on, because they can't just do what they want around the aquatic habitat. And Dave's here from Urban Fishers. He's already organizing across Ontario. He takes kids out, he's putting fish in the outer harbor. And that's a big open front to get at that one. There's so many other things, but I have to say something, and sorry if I offend anybody here, but the federal government has to stop hiding behind Doug Ford on this slide. There are, to be that rude, I'll say, about the city's role and kind of giving a little nod, yeah, well, maybe it's got merit. You can't, are you really going to negotiate with the provincial government that has usurped your role as citizens and the democratically owned land of the city of Toronto? That would be a terrible thing if we allow that to happen. That is a mistake. And I just have to say to our MPs, all of them along the waterfront, and there's a lot of them, stand up for Toronto. Stand up for our waterfront. We're going to hold you to account. Stop hiding behind doors. Stand up for our city. Stand up for what we planned together at Waterfront Toronto for years and years. That's what we have to do, my friends, tonight. Who has some time to make that their business over the next while? Put your hand up. Okay. You didn't sign up next. Thank you so much. It's great to be here at Ralph Thornton Center, where we get things started and get things moving in the East End of Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. That was turning up the heat, and I think it was, even though it was already hot in here, I think we need to turn up the heat a little more. Yeah, oh well, good conditions. Okay, so keeping to good time here, I'm pleased to welcome Norm Di Pasquale. This is our chair of NoJetsTo. And I know everyone knows Norm. I'm still going to tell you a little bit about him. He's been fighting for our waterfront for over a decade. He was the chair of NoJetsTo back in 2015. And since then, he's gone on to help form Waterfront for All, Ontario Place for All. And I have to say, he also served as a school trustee, and he's continued to be an ally and a mentor to all of us advocating on that power gravel across the city. So thank you for always being there.
Thank you, Trustee Sarah, for continuing to fight for public education. Thank you, MPP Peter Tabuns, for helping hold this town hall, along with Councillor Fletcher. Okay, so who is NoJetsTo? We are a nonpartisan citizens coalition. We are a grassroots group. We strive to protect the tripartite agreement. We oppose expansion of the island airport that would dominate our waterfront. We support the mixed-use vision of the waterfront. You know, Waterfront Toronto's been able to plan out like 10, 25, 50 years in the future and have an amazing vision for our waterfront. We want to protect that. We're not opposed to the current island airport as is, and not opposed to jets per se. It just, you know, we were telling Porter Airlines flying from Pearson, and they finally listened to us, and Porter's flying jets from Pearson. So we have, you know, this campaign's been going on for a long time, one way or another. Of course, it comes from one of the people who came up with some of the worst ideas for Ontario. Mike Harris first suggested jets at the island airport in 1996. And then Mel Lastman got City Council to vote for an airport bridge. And then David Miller got elected on a promise to kill that bridge. Victory number one. Then, you know, then Ports Toronto built a tunnel instead of a bridge, so they found a weasel way around that one. Then there was an island airport expansion push in 2013, and that's when NoJetsTo formed. And we spoke to residents from Mimico to Scarborough, all across Toronto, to fight that horrible plan for our waterfront. And in, you know, in 2014, City Council passed a reasonable motion that looked to a phased framework for expansion. You know, you had to pass through a whole bunch of gates for it to happen. But then the federal Liberals got elected in 2015, and we built enough ground support that they were able to say no jets at the island airport. And that was victory number two. And now here we are in March 2026, Premier Ford calls for jets, strips away all our environmental rights and protections from the island airport and the area around it, much like what he did at Ontario Place. Like, this is no trivial matter. All of our rights and protections are gone anywhere where Ford says, and that's a huge problem. I'm so glad the Ontario Place protectors are fighting that at Supreme Court. So Jane Jacobs said you have to win a fight 3 times. So if we win this one, it's going to be win number 3. So we're coming for it, Jane. Yeah, so it's impacting the waterfront vision. We have 17 million people visiting the central waterfront every year. 1.5 million people go to what is actually our crown jewel, the Toronto Islands. And, you know, and the waterfront's created 40,000 jobs, billions in ROI. We've invested billions. It's given us billions more back. And, you know, there's around 75,000 housing units planned for the East Waterfront at this point. So big promise there, and that is the crown jewel. So Waterfront Toronto said, at what point does the island airport stop being an airport in a thriving, revitalized waterfront and becomes an airport overwhelming the waterfront? And that's when you add jets. So, so Waterfront for All, and there's that horror of Waterfront for All. They uncovered the environmental assessment that Toronto Port Authority did in 2016 and buried. So I'm pulling out some nuggets from that environmental assessment to show you as part of this presentation. And one of those things is the future scenario predicts 24 jet flights per hour. So that's a jet every 2.5 minutes. So this picture is not that far off. It's Lake Ontario, soon to be Pearson on the Lake. What does expanding the island airport look like? So here we have jet blast deflectors. So jet blasts go at about 190 kilometers per hour, and you can imagine dealing with that in your canoe, your sailboat, your ferry, anything that you go on the water. And there's also jet deflectors all across the sides there, you know, of an expanded runway, an expanded marine exclusion zone. So, you know, if you're at Hanlon's Point here, you're not going to be able to like look back at the city, and then vice versa from the city to Hanlon's Point. So it starts to even affect those sight lines as they build up this island airport. The jet blast barriers are supposed to be between 14 and 19 feet. And this is just a visual of what a jet blast looks like. So here's the jet blast, there's the jet blast barrier, and then here's all of the kind of ancillary winds still going 40, 50 kilometers an hour, producing odors, winds, and that's our central waterfront. So not what we want. So these will definitely very badly affect boats. Anybody recreationally in the water, your life would likely be at stake in a canoe near the marine exclusion zone. This shrinks our central waterfront and introduces an element of danger that I don't think anybody recreationally enjoying our central waterfront deserves. The jet safety area also limits housing. So if you look here, these are zones where housing cannot be. You've probably heard of a few stories of buildings around Pearson where they were told, no, that building can't be 50 stories, it can be 20. Or your 5-story building needs to be 4 stories. So, you know, when you start losing all kinds of stories off these buildings, the affordable housing immediately doesn't pencil, and the housing itself may not even pencil. So you've gone from, you know, 15,000 units to Villiers Island to potentially somewhere close to 0. This gives you an idea of some of the heights that might be imposed. So this is the new protective surface that has come into the new safety standards that's come in since the last time they called for jets. And at the bottom part of this range, you're looking at 15 stories. So, you know, your housing in Villiers Island, which we're depending on for the affordable housing that we need in a housing crisis, may be completely unviable as a result of these jets. And Transport Canada can impose this, and all anybody can say is, okay. There's no, oh, are you sure? I mean, what, you know, like if a jet loses an engine, it climbs slowly, and that's why that sort of a narrow slope is needed. Or if it misses an approach when it tries to land, it's another scenario where you have to have a slope like that, which is a pretty tight slope to the water. The existing airport, I mean, they're turboprops, they're smaller, more maneuverable.
Existing buildings.
Oh, sorry, maybe I'll take that to the Q&A. Existing buildings, I don't know. It's not good. So, public health, increased risk. With jets, you have an increased risk of respiratory illness, lung cancer, lesions in the upper airway, nasal lesions, respiratory tract tumors, all the things you really don't want, that's for sure. So they're all increased with jets, and you know, just making the environment, you know, being on the central waterfront or living there, much less safe. There was a traffic report in the environmental assessment, and traffic is could go up as high as 400% in the area of the airport. So it's pretty bad already if you go down there. Like, I feel awful for the kids who have to cross the street and go to the waterfront school. It is just going to be absolute gridlock and chaos. So 400%, that is a horrible, horrible traffic increase. To talk a little bit, you know, there are plenty of birds that are observed at the island airport. Some are threatened, some are at risk. There's well over 100,000 that were spotted at the airport as part of this environmental assessment. You know, the Lake Ontario is a migratory bird runway. There are millions of birds that traverse this, and jets and birds are far less compatible than turboprops and birds. Jet engines have a tendency to suck in birds, which is very not nice. And you know, when you have one going every 2.5 minutes, I just feel awful for these birds, some of which are threatened species. You know, next question, where does the federal government stand on jets at the island airport? You know, they are either vague, opaque, or slightly in favor, are all the reads that I have got. Yeah, that's a good question. Where's Julie? So I really encourage you to reach out to your federal representatives and let them know this is an issue that matters to you, and your vote for them is counting on them being on the right side of this issue. Because they need to feel that pressure. They're trying to hide behind Doug Ford, and we can't let them. So please sign up to NoJetsTo.com, subscribe. We have, with Waterfront for All, we're doing an online session where we're going to go into the environmental assessment in far more detail. And we're hoping to have an event April 7th at the Transact in University Rosedale where there's a by-election. It's going to be called Vote NoJetsTo. And that's it for me, Sarah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Norm. And I just listening to that, I just keep thinking, why? Why on earth would this make any sense? And I'm happy as a timekeeper because we've got an extra few minutes and we have an extra special guest that walked in from a little further west. So I'm pleased to welcome MP Chris Glover from Spadina, Fort York. Also, a former school trustee who has continued to advocate for schools. So we're all over the map here. Please say a few words. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Well, first, so I think most people know me. I'm Chris Glover. I'm the MPP for Spadina Port York. So my area, the area that I serve is the downtown Toronto waterfront. And, I'll move this closer. Is that better? Okay. Anyways, the area I serve is the downtown Toronto waterfront. And I am deeply, deeply concerned about this change. And I'll just give a couple of examples, and I'm not going to take too much time, but I was at Pearson Airport. I came in from the convention in Winnipeg last night, and I got there, and it's like 12:30, and it took 15 minutes for the Uber that we ordered to get, around the bend up to the airport, because the traffic was just crazy. And I live along the waterfront near the Billy Bishop Airport. Doug Ford's talking about it. There's right now 2 million visitors or 2 million passengers a year at the Billy Bishop Airport. He wants to increase that to 10 million a year. Like, how are you going to get in and out? And what will that do to traffic congestion? And Sarah was just talking about schools. There's a school right there, right beside the airport. We've got to take into consideration the children as well. But the real argument I wanted to make here tonight is just the economic argument. You've got to look at both sides of this equation before, we let Doug Ford move ahead with this thing. There are 18 million visitors a year to the downtown Toronto waterfront. Yeah. We are so fortunate to have a waterfront city, and the biggest tourist attraction in Canada, bar none, is the Toronto waterfront. And so it generates $13 billion of economic activity. Just for comparison, there's 12 million visitors at Niagara Falls. So 18 million at the Toronto waterfront, 12 million at Niagara Falls. So that's how big an attraction it is. And so before, we let Doug Ford spoil that, we've got to make sure, that we've had an open and honest conversation, and that we're looking at putting the waterfront, the tourism industry, and everybody that depends upon that first. The other thing is, economically, we've just spent $2.5 billion, reworking the waterfront, and we're ready to put housing on Villiers Island and in the Portlands and all along the waterfront there. And as Norm was pointing out, a lot of that housing would have to be massively reduced, and it may eliminate the affordable housing that we need. And we desperately need affordable housing in this province. There are 85,000 people who are homeless in this province, and some of that affordable housing may have gone to them. So, I'm very happy to be here. Happy to be, thank you so much for giving me a couple minutes to speak. But can I just ask everybody to give Norm Di Pasquale from NoJetsTo a big round of applause for him. I also want to thank Paula and Peter and Sarah for inviting me tonight and for organizing. Give them a big round of applause. This is what community participation looks like. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. We are moving into a Q&A portion for the evening. And I know that we've got lots to discuss. We still have some good time to do it. So I'm going to ask for a bit of help to do this. I'm going to move this over. Can you still hear me, see me? I don't want to... Anyone? I think what we can do is put the mic here, and I'm going to try to request that people limit the question portion to a minute or less.
Concerns, statements, and suggestions, not just questions.
Oh, questions, concerns, statements, and suggestions. So they don't have to end with a question mark. They can end with a period or an exclamation mark, but they still should be a minute or less so that we can share the space to get lots of perspectives. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, and so for those that are unable to line up for any reason, just try to put your hand up and I'll see if I can somehow get the mic, or we can troubleshoot. I can go to you and read into the mic. We can do something like that. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
And I'll be passing the mic back and forth to those that want to respond. And if you could all indicate just with a finger, is this mic working? It was. If we can get that mic working, we can have that pass back and forth. If not, just put your hand up and I'll give you this mic. Does that sound good? Here we go. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Leslie Forge. I think in that little outburst I had there, there are a lot of existing high buildings. I'm a volunteer at Waterfront too, so I see all the people there and what was just being said. So I don't understand, how does that work?
Can you hear back there?
Speak close to the mic.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. So I'm just asking about, there are so many high-rise buildings at Harbourfront right now. I mean, it's packed with them. So I don't understand how that would apply, because aren't those planes going to fly into those buildings?
Here, I'm gonna pass. Can you hear me through this microphone? No, I don't think it's working. So I'm gonna switch here. Sorry if one goes off while I'm using the other. I'll pass this to you.
Thanks. Just wanted to first of all apologize. I was maybe it was nerves, but I was calling it Villiers Island. It's equipment menacing. So sorry about that.
Yes.
And to answer the question, so what Transport Canada is doing today is giving Billy Bishop a lot of safety exemptions. Now, you know, now that they're applying for a brand new airport, what exemptions will they get, and how much do we want to exempt from safety are very good questions. But what I expect is if the building is not built yet, it's going to get a severe haircut. And the ones that are already existing are going to get safety exemptions. Which I'm not sure that makes us all feel very good. Great question. Thank you.
And a concerning response, though. Thank you for giving us that information. Here, go ahead.
Paula Bratton here. I have two things. There's a player that's not here. When I heard there were 3 people at the front, I thought we might have municipal, provincial, and federal. But we don't. And the federal government has the power. They regulate transportation, and I'd forgotten about fisheries, Paula, but you've made that point. And they're part of the Waterfront Toronto, and they own land there. So they've got to be at the table. And I'm going to put a challenge to everybody that's here. Ask 5 of your friends, 5, to write to their federal member. In Toronto, they're all Liberal, and Carney needs them. And say, if you approve of this, you will not get my vote again. If every one of us does that and notifies ourselves by call, we might get some momentum in getting the absent Julies here. Okay? Because Peter will tell you and Paula will tell you, the politicians listen to the public. Not just at meetings here. And I've already asked friends to write letters, and preferably not just to East End. We need to inundate more than Julie DeBruson. But that's important. There's 2 things we should ask for. The proper studies, and we should ask for a 25-year plan. Because if you look at Pearson, one of the characteristics of Pearson is all the parking. And there is no parking at the foot of Bathurst Street. The only available land is infill in the waterfront, or the Norway or Centennial Parks. So does this become a plan to get rid of the waterfront parks? So, as demand of the federal government that they require environmental, a 25-year plan, and all the components, traffic, etc., etc.
I spoke with my MP, I'm in the area, and she revealed a vulnerability that can obviously eviscerate all this if we just take advantage of it. And I'm speaking to all the people in the room. She said she's on the transport committee. They're pushing her to say Billy Bishop Airport ought to take up the slack for the problems Pearson are going to have in 30 years' time. That made no sense to me. So I found out there's a way, an obvious way, to have it all laid out so that you can pressure the government in the federal government. You just ask ChatGPT or your favorite AI system, what's wrong with this? And it'll just lay it out. And at the heart of it, it told me, it said this is, well, I mean, I'm being colloquial, but it said this is stupid, basically. There are 3 regional airports that will cover all the slack. Oshawa, Hamilton, and Waterloo. So it's completely unnecessary. So in their being opaque, federal transport minister, they're not, if you all email them and say, I know these 3 airports are there, and we can use trains in a new way. And of course, the business traveler loves a direct link. That's just final cherry on the top. You can eviscerate the argument completely. Now, if ordinary people like you and me can send all this information, they don't have any rock to hide behind. This is very clear, and this is not us being emotional, except secondarily. There are the fact. You quote from this, and then you make reference to ChatGPT or whatever AI system, and give your opinion. And then you can see that you're a regular person that know your stuff. And you must know other people in Canada who can then email them, because the transport department can do this corruptly. God knows what they can do anywhere else. So some of them will be interested. If you just put your backs into it, ask ChatGPT or whatever AI system is and quote from it succinctly, or just cut and paste some of what it says, it's going to go, oh my God, we've got a real problem here. We can't really hide behind this.
Okay.
Anyways, I like giving you some.
Answer was 30 years from now, congestion of
30 years from now, I was told they're going to run out of runway space.
in Pearson.
Yeah, so therefore, because so ChatGPT said to me, well, this is the way bureaucrats think. They think every time there's a slight problem at some point, any runway will do. Like any port in a storm, any runway in the storm. And it's a very bureaucratic way of thinking. And
That's what you were told.
yes,
Yeah,
I sent it to. I sent the copies. Yeah, you may send out a version of it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
Hi, I don't usually do this, but I'm concerned. Sorry. Is that better? It's actually about our MP, our MP, because it's Julie DeBruce, and she's supposed to be the Minister of the Environment. So I don't know why she's not acting on this. Like, this is ridiculous. And I've tried to call her office at least 5 times. I'm sorry. I tried to call her office at least 5 times. No one answers the phone. You get it. She used to have staff. I don't know what happened to the staff, but you get the answering machine, and I haven't heard back. I've told the answering machine what I'm concerned about. I hear nothing. So she's supposed to be our representative. It's insane. It's just insane. Why isn't there absolutely an environmental study required for this kind of project? That should be the first thing. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you.
Just because I want to make sure everyone has the mic here. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ed Moore. Thanks for the shout out, Norm. We're having, as Norm mentioned, tomorrow a Zoom meeting. There's a lot of knowledgeable people. There's going to be some slide presentations and things that'll go into a little more detail about the airport. There's a lot of ins and outs. There's a lot of crazy stuff. You'll love it. It's completely nutty from beginning to end, but seeing some of the pictures might be illuminating. We encourage you to come. It's called waterfrontforall.ca. You go on there, you send an RSVP, and you get a link. So we look forward to seeing you virtually tomorrow at 7 p.m. I think Norm's going to speak too, right? That's great. We'll have some other great people too. Thank you.
The Martin Goodman Trail runs right across the airport entrance at Billy Bishop. The indigenous people speak for the environment. They also were the first people to use Hanlon's Point and where the airport is now to fish. The Mohawk Indians used to fish there, and that was why Toronto was called Toronto. It's a fishing weir in Mohawk language. The other thing is, how are people going to get to Ford Island? How are they getting there? If it's an island, are we getting more ferries? How are they getting there? I think there was something else. The poor people who live there right now with condos everywhere, their property values are going to drop considerably. What are they going to do?
to brought up the other airports in the area.
Sorry, just to make sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so they can hear you at the back.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
If you pull up Google Maps and look at Waterloo International, it is it could be a very well-served airport. It is 2 kilometers off the Kitchener line that services Stratford, London, Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, Brampton, all those within the catchment area that could easily be serviced by that airport. It's a no-brainer. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just want one thing for us all to consider, and especially the leaders of this movement, sorry. One thing for us all to consider is, how are you going to find allies? We all agree here on how we feel about the waterfront. How are you going to find allies in the business community, in other parts of the city? Because without that, I'm afraid we're going to have a lot of trouble. So, something to really think about. I saw that the Toronto Board of Trade, unfortunately, said, Yahoo for the jets. They're just not thinking it through. So I just, want you to think carefully about that.
Yeah.
Councillor Fletcher just wanted to speak to that. Thank you.
I just want to speak to that, and that's a really important thing that you brought up, because does anybody remember Sidewalk Labs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and Google?
Yeah.
And they wanted 20 acres over at Quayside, and then they wanted 100 in the Portlands, and then they said, okay, we'll settle just for 20, and they said, we'll settle only for 4, but they had to go. And they had to go because developers felt, why are these people coming here and deciding what to do in our city? That was part of, I wouldn't say an open coalition, but part of the pressure on that, which was actually brought, sorry to say, by the federal government in signing off on that. But that is part of the community. If you can't build on the Portlands, if you can't build in Oquim-Minising, if you are having trouble now on Quayside, somebody said follow the money. It's follow the money for Doug Ford, because we know how he likes to help people with money. And it's also follow the money for who's going to lose out with something like this, because it will not be able to be built the way that we have thought about it. And it is a big investment. $2.5 billion is a significant investment in order to be able to create 75,000 new homes across the waterfront. And that money will be diminished. I just also want to say that I've heard from somebody in Scarborough Southwest, somebody in Scarborough saying, well, it's one thing for downtown, it's another thing to have those jets flying by us all the time on the waterfront. So it's not just us right here or Central Waterfront, it's all along Toronto's waterfront and everybody who lives there. So thank you for bringing that up, that's very important. Who are our friends on this? Whether they're small, big, powerful, not so much, we all need friends to make a difference on this file. Thanks.
Thank you very much for raising the point. We've been speaking to resident associations across Toronto. That was key for us to have victory in 2015, and it's also extremely invaluable now. If you're a member of a resident association and can get us invited to speak, we are happy to speak at resident association and talk about the issues. It's been extremely invaluable.
Especially in the Toronto North.
Yeah, especially Toronto North, sure.
Right.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you both. Here you go.
As I'm listening to the last person, I'm old enough to remember people or planes when we fought.
Yeah.
The Toronto Island residents, Scarborough Thruway, and Pickering Airport. And I'm wondering, which of those, can we learn something from the strategies we used then to fight this? I also noticed Peter's word distraction a couple of times, and I'm wondering if this is taking our attention because there are even more evil things planned that we don't know about. The other thing I'm concerned about is will Billy Bishop Airport have to be closed completely while this supposedly new airport and new runways built?
Good point.
I don't think, yeah, that's,
No, seriously.
I know. So, well, we just don't know.
Can you speak to it?
It's a total rebuild.
Here, Norm will speak to that. It sounds totally rebuilt.
Yeah, as you noted, that it would be a total rebuild at the airport, but for the runway and safety area work they're going to do over the next year or so, it can happen, after hours. So they will try to find ways to keep the airport open, but clearly for jets, that's just a complete overhaul of that airport. We saw a version of it when the runway and safety area battle was happening. They were proposing roads around the island that would, go all around it. It was a massive change from the current island airport.
Thank you, Norm. Here you go.
I had a question about creating complete communities about the waterfront, because that creates complete communities with housing and all of the other requirements that you need to create a complete community. And also, in addition to that, greenhouse gas emission reduction targets and the government's supposed greenhouse gas emission reduction plans that are, it's going to become impossible with all the greenhouse gas emissions and the health implications that will result in the increasing jets. Yes.
I mean, I'll just point out, I feel horrible for future residents of Equipment Menacing in the Port Lands area having to deal with the Portland's gas plant, plus the extra pollution from the jets on top of it. It's getting to the point where it's untenable. So thank you, and yeah, Equipment Menacing it's going to be an amazing, complete community, and we have to fight to protect it.
Karen, we're going to get behind. We'll give you a moment just to get through and get the next speaker through. Thank you. And just thanks everybody for the question marks, the exclamation points, for all of it. Yeah. Do you want to come through more, or is that working? We can go for it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks to the city for supporting accessibility here, actually. Here, go ahead.
Thank you. We have a premier since 2018 who prides himself on tax cuts. That's all he talks about is tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts. And in the recent budget, what did you hear about? Tax cuts to business, tax cuts to this, tax cuts to that. Peter, I'm wondering if in the legislature there's been any talk about how this expansion of Billy Bishop Airport is, the costs are going to be covered, and how this convention center costs are going to be covered. In addition, I'm very curious to know what the members of parliament, the MPPs from other parties feel about this. Has there been any discussion with other MPPs? Have there been any conservative MPPs who have actually stood up and said, hey, we're not sure about this? Like, how do we get the other people of Ontario involved? Because this is not just taxpayers' dollars from Toronto and the GTA. This money is going to be coming from the coffers of Ontario.
True.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. First of all, Doug Ford never talks about where he's going to get the money to do his projects. Like, let's be serious. It does not happen. And frankly, when it comes to I think it's 413, he doesn't even reveal the actual cost of building it. So we don't even get to the question of how much it's going to cost. The humongous convention center in the lake, the $2 million, no, not any discussion. And to my knowledge, in the budget bill that we're debating in the legislature right now, there is no mention of the funds for any of these things. It is not part of that debate. And it's something that we obviously have the opportunity to raise. The budget debate just started this morning, and is going to be running all week. So there'll be a lot of opportunities to get at this. In terms of other MPPs, I haven't heard from the Liberals at this point. I will say to you that there is an iron discipline in the Conservative caucus. And one MPP sensibly wrote about the collapse of the conservation authorities. You may have heard about this. The consolidation of conservation authorities in Lake Superior with Lake Huron. And she timidly wrote, this may not be a good idea, and very quickly had to withdraw that. So we are not going to hear anything sensible from that end at all. We will get a chance to argue with them in the budget debate about this money, but I have to say to all of you, this is not a government that actually runs on what you think of as traditional business principles. They don't think in terms of business case. They think in terms of who's going to make a killing on this, how do we make sure they make that killing, and the rest, that goes to hell.
As usual, Peter, thank you for being in the legislature every day staring down that caucus. And I'll say there's one thing he does know the cost of, because you've heard it say it so many times. We had to get rid of the Catholic board because she bought a $15 milkshake. Do you remember that? Billions of dollars that are being spent. $2 billion on this, $1.5 billion here. All they can talk about is a trustee that bought a milkshake for $15 to take away the democratic rights of all of us and our election rights. So, yeah, there's one thing he does know the cost of. There, sorry, just to correct you.
I appreciate the correction.
Yes, that's it. $6 billion out of public education since 2018. But let's talk about the milkshake.
Let's talk about the milkshake.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Here, please go ahead.
Thank you. On the environmental side of the equation, I spent a fair bit of time at Tommy Thompson Park, which maybe as Eastenders, others have too. It's larger than Central Park, and among other things, very important globally recognized area for migratory bird research. So to the point about establishing allies, I'm curious if the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, which I believe has jurisdiction over some or all of that, the Leslie Spit or Tommy Thompson Park, are they a prospective ally in this? Do they have a voice? Curious about that, or other related organizations, be it maybe on allies we might not think about right away, like Birds Canada or other organizations that could marshal evidence to show that this is an important aspect of the overall argument against the proposed plan.
Yeah.
I want to say I appreciate the commentary, and I think talking to nature and environment groups makes a lot of sense. They have a lot of knowledge, and they have credibility with a lot of people. But unfortunately, the Conservation Authority people have been intimidated. People get driven out for speaking up. And so right now we're fighting this consolidation of the conservation authorities. They are not speaking. They are not speaking to defend their own existence because they know what will happen to them as individuals.
Yeah, yeah.
To put a more hopeful spin on it, the amazing group Lake Ontario Waterkeepers has written article after article about how jets will just completely wreck the central waterfront of Lake Ontario in Toronto. So, we have had some allies that are bravely speaking up, and, they are recipients of different levels of governments of funding, so they sometimes need to pick their spots. But even those, back in the jet fight from 2015, we had, organizations that you don't think would speak up, giving us, feeding us information. So, they find, or, they take part in the government consultations and send them things to think about. So they may not, be that sort of an ally, but, when it comes to the studies, they will be an important voice.
Thank you. And I'm just going to do a time check. We're 8:15, and I do want to make sure we allow time for some closing remarks from our speakers. So I'm going to ask, we maybe have time for our two speakers here. Maybe if one other person wants to come up, that would be great if anyone needs assistance for me to get to, and then that would sort of put us towards a close. Does that sound okay for everyone? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. My name is Frances Latchford, and turn around. Sorry. Okay, I don't make teacher voice. My name is Frances Latchford, and I'm visiting from Corktown. Chris Moisey is my councillor, who I don't see here, disappointingly, which I fear means he's in support of this. Hopefully not. Oh, good. I'm very glad to hear it. Very glad to hear it. Very glad to hear it. But part of the reason I came today is I was sitting in my office checking my emails, and at the same time I opened the email about tonight's event, a jet flew over my house, and on the second floor my windows started shaking and my dog started barking. So it was a jet coming from the island airport. They do pass my way periodically. I just live around King of Parliament area. And if my windows are shaking on the second floor, I imagine all the people with windows in all the condos in all that new development across the waterfront, coming all the way up, certainly to King and further, depending on the direction of a jet, are going to be having their glass windows and their glass towers shaking as well. So I would encourage the people organizing this today, of course, to be reaching out to condo boards, to be reaching out and leafleting at condo doors as people are coming and going, and making sure you're getting inside those buildings. So I'd be happy to do some of that. I just wanted to tell you that little anecdotal story so people do realize no matter what floor you live on, you will be affected depending on your proximity to the airport.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Ken Hunter. I'm a registered psychotherapist.
We need you. The board needs more.
It's amazing to me that just thinking about the mental health costs is not enough to put this to bed. There's someone mentioned it should be a 25-year plan. I would suggest that this be brought up sometime later, because we're still recovering from COVID. We're dealing with, you can list how much everyone is dealing with. I suggest instead of a 25-year plan, let's talk about it after the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. So my last comment, with all due respect to NoJets, I think I would like to encourage someone to do our own kind of Watergate, to go to where there's stationary, special economic zone, steal it all, and let's call it Special Toronto Zone. Thank you.
He's always got a special Toronto zone. Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Floyd Ruskin, and I do not believe in Doug Ford's vision of Toronto's waterfront. I don't believe that we should be spending $2.2 billion of taxpayer money on a foreign-owned spa. I don't believe we should be spending $500 million on a mega parking garage along the waterfront. I don't believe that we should have an expanded Billy Bishop Airport. I also don't believe that we should have relocated the Ontario Science Centre. Unnecessarily, just to provide another opportunity for American tourists to visit Toronto. We're spending, as somebody mentioned, that our waterfront brings in a lot of money. And it probably does. When I listen to the Premier and the Minister of Transportation talk about the expansion, it got me, is that they used the word iconic 14 times. 14 times. We're not the only city that has a waterfront. But we are one of the few cities that does have a wonderful population of diversity, and we're the only damn city that has a ravine system. That's what we should be celebrating today, not Doug Ford's vision of a waterfront. I totally object to the Doug Ford government spending our money unnecessarily when we have challenges in healthcare, education, and you know what, I'm 72. I'm thinking about long-term care too, and I don't want to pay some private company to look after me. So object, and I will say once again, let our MP and every MP that represents you know that we object to this. They're going to be the decision maker at the end of the day. Thank you and have a good evening. I do have one more thing about the Science Center. If you are interested, because Doug Ford's not changing his mind, let's get past that. He's not changing his mind. He's going to waste our money for a tourist attraction at Ontario Place. But we have a wonderful structure at 770 Don Mills Road, designed by Canadian architect Raymond Moriana to last 250 years. That is sitting there, and what will happen will be demolition by neglect. So on Wednesday, April the 1st, we'll have the first of our community consultations to reimagine what we can do with this wonderful structure. And every single thing is on the table. And the first one will be Wednesday night. It's on Save Ontario Science Center webpage, and it's on all social media. Please come and share your ideas of how we can reimagine this wonderful structure, once again, nestled in our ravine system. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we still have a few moments in this building before the caretakers have to come in and clean it up. So we'll do some closing remarks, but because I do have the microphone for 1 second more, I would be remiss if I didn't let everyone know what I tell everyone when we're talking about the school board takeover. And that is that after a meeting, we have to make sure that Doug Ford hears it. So his number is 416-325-1941. They staff the line well into the evening. Call now. School board's called Friday. I've said tenant Tuesday. We can have Waterfront Wednesday. Make sure they hear about it. And 416-325-1941. You'll talk to some wonderful people that will take notes and let them know what you have to say about this. And with that, we'll do closing remarks. I might start in the opposite direction we started. So please go ahead, Norm.
I want to thank you, Sarah. I want to thank MPP Tabuns and Councillor Fletcher for holding such an important event. I want to thank all of you. Please, there's NoJetsTo pins, brochures, postcards, t-shirts, and lawn signs back there. Please make my load lighter. I don't want to carry it all back home. So please take some of it with you, and thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Norm. I expect people will go online for the Waterfront for All. I'm going to say we'll finish up, we'll be out, but everybody, people put their hands up earlier. You want to keep working on this, you want to do something on this. I saw your hands up. So what I'm going to say is, after we finish, come on up here and we'll trade names and see how you want to do that, okay? So we have 15 minutes of just pure, let's get together EastEnders and figure out how we're going to work on that.
Didn't we write them when we signed in?
Yes, but not everybody got to sign in. So we'll just have 10 minutes if you want to do that, and if you signed in already, we'll get in touch. But that's a good thing to do. Okay, Peter.
I signed a petition, but I did not.
Yeah, so if you, we had a little check mark that said, I want to help. So, but we'll just take a few minutes because we have it till 8:45 and it's now 8:25. So we'll be able to have 10 minutes to just get together with everybody who's got an idea or wants to get working on this issue, okay?
And if you haven't signed in or signed a petition, please do it before you go so that we can get back in touch with you about this issue. Because my sense is you're here, you came out of your nice home down streets to come here and you attend this meeting. So you are a motivated crowd, which leads me to my other comment. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We got good media coverage. It's a very strong message going back both to the Prime Minister and the Premier that people are going to mobilize on this issue and they're going to push back really, really hard. Yeah, sorry, good point. 100 people couldn't get in. There will be other, pardon? On the night of the game. This is live editing. I just stand here, I get it from both sides, and it's high quality. It's high quality. So, those who are interested, please come up and see you all very soon, because this fight's going to go on for a while.
Thank you so much for being here. I see some people going up. We've got about 15 minutes left in